Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 13th day of May, 2019. Let's get everything up on the screen. Well, I've got the Amazon storefront up, and it's still called a witch's store. I stuck a link to it in the notes here. It went just below the heading and stuff. There's notes. There's all the links to all the social media places I'm on, and you can follow me all over on those places. But basically, that's up, and I've got a ton of different categories, and I just want to tell you them real quick. And then before we get started, I wanted to show you a couple new decks I got. But anyway, there's a section on beekeeping, garden, craft, cannabis growing, herbs, soap making, just the melt and pour type. I don't do the other. Maybe someday, but I don't know. I don't really care. I just want to get it over with. I got too much to do. And the melt and pour is so simple. I did a thing on long-term food storage simply because we just never know with this wacky government we have what's going to happen. So I got something on that too. There's a reading list. There's a section on herb supplements and tinctures, one on winemaking. My husband's been doing that. Oh my goodness. Yummy. There's a gluten-free section, just a miscellaneous section, a harvest and canning section. And then, of course, one for Instant Pot accessories, because, of course, you know, if you have one, you must buy it presents. It's just required. Anyhow, I already did this once, and all of this took me 15 minutes. And it's like, no, that's not okay. I looked down, I thought, oh, it's only been a couple of minutes. No, it was 15. So I'm starting this over. I'm doing it very, very quickly, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm not taking up 15 minutes of time here for this. So anyhow, I got my two decks. I might have told you about that. I had them coming, the Hermetic and the Paulina. This is the Hermetic deck. It looks like this. If you know anything about the Kabbalah or anything about Hermetic type of magic or thinking, it's very, very, very Hermetic. It's wonderful. I'm going to do in fact, I have a reading I'm finishing up, and I'm going to post it on the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. But the Paulina deck, I mean, there are no words. Really. I mean, you can see right away, it's going to be like this, peaceful. It's very oriented, and I'm going to start at the bottom. This is the High Priestess. I'm going to get really close because I want you to see this. This is our High Priestess. Look at those eyes in the center. You saw the bees down there. This is a card of mystery, isn't it? Isn't that stunning? Well, the whole deck is like this. So anyhow, way too complicated to show in the dark. So anyhow, I did all that very, very quickly. Let's see. Okay, we're at 3 minutes. Okay, that's better than 15. Anyhow, I got talking about the decks and everything. And I just think that if you have a love of tarot, it's a good thing to go and buy other decks, to not just stick with a couple of decks, you know, or one or whatever. I don't think any tarot reader really does. I think that we all buy them. And the thing about it is, even if they only come with a little tiny booklet, you're going to find something in there from that author that is a little bit different than what you've ever seen before. And when you do, cherish it, bless it, write it down, because it can really, really enrich the entire interpretation experience. So I just do that. I love reading the little booklets, and so I go through, and each time I'll say, okay, what did they say about that? You know, and on some of them, you really have to. Like the Heindel deck, you really have to do that, because you're not really sure what is he talking about there, you know? And Rachel Pollack has been very helpful in that regard, doing the interpretations there. And so it's the imagery is so amazing, particularly in the Heindel deck, that you really need to have something handy. And the same with the Hermetic, you know. Some of the Hermetic decks include other kinds of things like runes, and Heindel includes runes as well. But like the Enochian Scrying Tarot, what it has both geomantic glyphs and all kinds of things on it. You know, elemental stuff. The backside is another deck in and of itself called the Western Tattva Tarot. So that's all elemental, and you just learn so much about all of tarot by looking at these other ideas, you know. Even the Voyager Tarot, that's an interesting system, because that's almost an entire transformation system, what he's done with it. and the oracle cards. What was his name? Stephen Farmer, the Earth Magic Oracle deck. That's beautiful. I love that thing. Then there's the Hedge Witch is it the Hedge Witch Herb Oracle? I can't think of it. I can't think of the name of it. That thing is cool. The Druid Plant Oracle. There's a Druid Animal Oracle decks. I think I have the Plant Oracle deck. We'll look at that one time. In fact, one day, why don't we do that? Let's look at we'll look at the Druid Plant one, and we'll also look at the Hedge Witch one. That Hedge Witch one is awesome. It is just awesome. But anyhow, let's go ahead and draw a card. Today's the 13th day of the month. You can reduce it to a 4. Most numerologists do. But as a witch, I don't. The 7 and the 13 I view as master witch numbers, even the 9 really. And I mean, you wouldn't want to reduce anything that was the 9 and the 7 you wouldn't, of course, but what would you reduce them to? But 13 you would, but I don't like to. So anyhow, today's the 13th. It's a witchy day. It's a Monday, and hopefully you had a great weekend. We spent it outside putting in two new raised beds, so that's what we did. Anyhow, let's draw the first card. Well, here we're starting Monday off with our cups held high in the 3 of Cups. We see 3 friends in a celebration. I don't want to get too glary here on this. This is about mind, body, spirit alignment, emotional fulfillment, abundance, happiness, joy, celebration. Now, we've been looking at these things as a whole week together. And we've also been trying to think about whether or not they apply or say one week transitions into the next. And it seems like that's what's been going on. May is the 5th month, so it's a month of change. April was more about initiating things and new beginnings and all of that. But now we're starting to see things grow out in the garden. We're starting to see life come back, to the world. So you're starting to see great change. And it happens very quickly during the month, doesn't it? And then June comes and it's busting out all over, isn't it? But this week we're going to begin with maybe some joy and some balance and some integration with others. Last week we were looking at sort of a new direction. But we ended up with, I don't remember what we had on Friday. Let me look, because I didn't write it down on the screen here. Oh, we had the Hermit, the Moon, the Ace of Cups, and Hagalaz. So some change within a fixed framework, alignment. Mostly the week last week was all about aligning within and knowing the truth of things. And here we have the 8 of Pentacles. And 8 is about harmony, it's about structure, it's about leadership, it's about even progression, understanding the greater aspect of self in others. And so here he's applying his craft, preparing either for his own success or for his future life, or what he's going to be selling to the city, to the folks behind him. As you can see that the town is behind him. And he's out there working diligently. 8 is about diligence and steadfastness. So far today, it just may be that we're finding our fulfillment in just our, mundane tasks, getting back into the swing of things after the weekend, maybe. Maybe if this is a past, present, and future, maybe we had a wonderful time on the weekend. If you were able to spend time, it was Mother's Day yesterday. So if you're a mom and you were able to see your kids, maybe you had a lovely day yesterday, but today it's back to work. Well, we have the King of Wands. So I'm going to draw a fourth card. The thing about court cards is they have to operate off something else. They have to interact with something else, really, for my comfort level anyway. So you're dealing with a court card. You're either dealing with the individual on the card itself. I can't talk today. It's Monday. So here you're looking at a man in authority, or you're looking at his qualities. And so he can be willful, he can be benevolent, kind, but he's the guy that gets things done. He's the boss. And so it could be, if you're looking back at this, let's see if I can do this and show you what I'm talking about. There's another thing in tarot. If you're looking at directionality, okay, and I have this completely backwards because I want to show you how he's looking. There we go. Okay. You see how he's looking back at everybody? Okay. I'm going to put this back in the order I had it. The thing about the king, I'm not a fan of kings, okay? I'm not. I find them, the only one that I might be a fan of might be the King of Pentacles. But the thing about the kings that I'm bothered by is the fact that, of course, the patriarchal attitude about all of them, the lack of egalitarianism, the lack of understanding that, there are other people besides the king involved. They take the level of authority too far, and they don't realize that most of it's an illusion anyway, because without the queen, they're nothing. And so, basically, it's the queens that control the room. The king just doesn't realize it, and she just allows that to happen, basically. But make no mistake about it, it's the feminine, earthly influence that governs all of us here. It's not the so-called god or king or what have you. Everything here is working together in unison in order that this whole experience even exists. And so enter the king. And sometimes, depending upon how Mars-oriented the energy is, it can be just way too overwhelming and way too much. Gets caught up in his own thing, his own agenda, and doesn't understand that there's a greater aspect of things to be looking at. You would think that wouldn't be the case, but it is. We see it with the dad that comes home, at all hours, after being wherever, and certainly not with mom and the kids. And it's all under the guise of, oh, I'm doing it for the family. No, they're doing it for themselves, really, a lot of times. Well, actually, let's do another card. I was going to take the room, but let's do another card. We've still got a little bit of time here. So either we've had, if this is past, present, and future, maybe maybe we're working on something here today that we have to present to the boss. Our mind, body, spirit is in alignment. We had a wonderful weekend. We're happy. We're feeling great. We're getting back to work. We're getting our projects accomplished, and maybe we have to go and sell them to this man or someone, because your customers, if you're a merchant of some kind, your customers are essentially people in authority, aren't they? If they don't come in, then you don't have a job. You don't have a business. And so in a sense, he seems ready to go and approach this individual. Or it could be that you need to have a little bit of authority with what it is that you're doing. And when you're going to go and sell your work to other people, that you need to do it with an air of authority, and confidence, and that this is a great product, and I'm going to stand behind it, or what have you. If you're You know, if you're a tradesman, a craftsman, say you're someone who maybe makes cabinetry or something. Uh, Clearly, your work typically speaks for itself, but you want to be able to sell it as well. You want to be able to talk about the wood that you used. You want to talk about the time you put in. You want to talk about how you're going to stand behind it and all of that. And so maybe you either have to summon up the king within to do that, or you have to present all this to somebody in authority. So it could be something like that. But let's look at one more card. Well, death, 13th card, aligns with today. Oh, and there's your rose. I'll show you again on the Hermetic deck. The same sort of thing. See, these folks here, these were Hermetic folks that you know, the Rider-Waite deck. These were Hermetic oriented people. So you see that same beautiful rose there that you see here. But death is about transition. Yeah, there's some folks dead on the ground there. Maybe it's the king. Maybe we're seeing an end to rule. You see the priest over here on the side. You see the sun coming up between the two pillars. You know, look over here. You see the two pillars, similar to the moon. The sun looks like it's setting, or it could be rising on the scene. Looks like a scene out of Game of Thrones, doesn't it? Oh, can you believe it's only one more? I can't. I just can't. I'll be in tears the whole time. I love that show. But you can see the young one down there, and it looks like the mother, maybe the queen, bereft. But it's a card of transition. Maybe we're transitioning into our own sense of power today, where we're realizing that we have more power than we know. You know, maybe we've given that power away to others, and we really need to figure out, you know, stay in alignment. Allowing spirit to inform our process helps to do that, to stay in alignment with who we are. It then makes our priorities clear, doesn't it? With the 8, it's showing he knows what his priorities are, and it's building something for it's building his legacy, if you want to call it that. I mean, that involves everything, doesn't it? You know, fortune, family, structure, home, all of that. It's the legacy, our wealth, our financial security. But we have to have that inner impetus to do that, don't we? And that's usually, we think of that as Mars energy. It could be represented by this King of Wands. Wands is the fire element, or will. And so we have to have the will to stand in our own power and to realize that, you know, if we wait around for other people to hand us what we need or to open the door for us, or we might be waiting a long time. Sometimes we have to engineer the opening ourselves. Sometimes we have to let people know, hey, we're out here and we have this skill, this product, this whatever. And in this case, you know, he's working on a craft of some kind. He's a craftsman of some kind. But we have the ability to stand in our own power and say, here we are. This is what we have to offer the world. And we're not going away, you know, we're going to keep persevering until we reach that goal. And maybe it's not ever a goal that's reached. Maybe it's just a process that we become comfortable with, you know, one that's never ending. And so, but it's one we have to find our footing in, and we have to find our own personal authority in. But clearly, there's a transition afoot here. We're going to break through something with Thurazaz. Thurazaz is the 3rd rune of the Elder Futhark. It's otherwise known as a thorn or Thor's hammer. You see it looks like a pea or like a little thorn that sticks out. It's great to use in weather working magic to kind of break through the clouds and stuff. It's a water element rune, so it's all about change and transformation, so it aligns well with death. Clearly, there's a sense of breaking through in this reading, where we're breaking through maybe whatever we were stuck in. We're back in alignment. We're working on our craft or whatever we're putting out there for people. We understand that it's part of the process of life, of living, of existing, of creating our legacy. We bring our authority into play. We understand that we're in this transitional phase, but we need to be in this transitional phase. It's necessary, it's required, just like death is necessary. It happens eventually to every one of us. And then we're reborn into something new. There's a sense of rebirth with the Three of Cups. And there's also a sense of rebirth with Thursaz. But it's Thor's hammer. It's breaking through. It's moving through obstacles, not just over them or around them, but breaking through them in a very authoritative way. So maybe there's been an obstacle, and maybe it's been one that's been within us to our achieving something, to our achieving success or what have you. In whatever it is, whether it's work or relationships, or because we did start out, with three friends here with the Three of Cups. And so it could be maybe breaking through relationships that are very, very important to you. Maybe you were able to reunite this weekend. If your family has been estranged, maybe you reunited on Mother's Day. Maybe you didn't. I can tell you that if that's going on, it's an awful place to be. And I know this from personal experience. So you don't want to have that happen in your life. But if it is, and you've resolved some things, well, then maybe that's what this is about. And you're standing in your own authority, you're standing in your own power, and you're allowing this transition to take hold, and you're embracing this change with Thursaz. Last week, I started doing just throwing a geomancy rune. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I do a geomancy reading at the beginning of each month for the month. And so you can check that out on the blog at imsteppingaside.com if you want to look at that to see what it is I'm talking about. But basically, well, this is what a shield chart looks like. When I do them on the blog, I'm basically entering them in. I throw them 4 times. You can do this a variety of ways. I ultimately made just basically round runes. And you have a single dot on one side and 2 dots on the other. And however they come up, and there's a specific order: fire, air, water, and earth. And so I have that indicated on here as well as which is which. And then you're going to do the first 4, and you're going to put them in here. And it reads from right to left. And then the first 4, after the first 4, the first line of dots creates the next one. Here we go. The second line of dots creates this one. The third line of dots creates this one. And the fourth line of dots creates this one. And then you start combining. You see here, you combine these 2 to get this one, these 2 to get this one, and so forth. And then you'll combine, these 2, well, these 2 to get this one, and on and on. And then the final 2 to get this last one. Anyhow. It's an old form of divination, and I mean old. So anyhow, and I like all that. So anyhow, I just did it because I wasn't really sure last week of something, and so they were sitting here, and I thought, okay, I'm going to throw them and see what I come up with. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just take a moment and do that, and kind of give it as an overall significator here for the whole thing. So which one is this one? That's a dual. So that is water. So I'm going to have a dual 1 for water. Okay, I have a dual 1, 2 for earth. I have 2 for, oh, there we go. So it's 2, 1, 2, 2. So I believe, yeah, that's rubeus. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like. Oh, where is my pen? There's a pen. Now, Rubeus is not Rubeus Hagrid on Hogwarts and Harry Potter, but Rubeus is a passionate rune. It can have anger issues. So, but it can also be passion. So it kind of depends on what the situation is. But that's the glyph. So Rubeus is some Mars energy, and sometimes depending on, and it can either be something that's going to give you the impetus to get going and get things done, or and bring your passions into play. And so that could mean what this could be possibly. This is a reflective of passion. This certainly is. But Rubeus being in the mix, I'm not going to read it as, let me double check here. I'm not going to read it though as something that's evil. It can also be considered evil. We aren't going to let that be here though. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, red-headed, passionate, fiery temper, vice, force, power, destruction, evil outcomes. The aspects determine how negative, favorably only where aggression or eroticism is demanded, violent sexual desire. Yeah, that's probably not a very good energy. So, if that sort of comes into play, you want to let that one go. Instead, keep it tamped down with the notion of spirit informing the process here. Use it to break through stagnation instead. Some of the, you're looking at like interpretations from Agrippa and folks like that, I find them to be quite negative. It's like reading some of Crowley's interpretations. Some of these guys are just, I don't know, they've just got odd ideas. But Agrippa is from, when would this have been done? Like in the 14th century, maybe? 13th or 14th century? Is that when Agrippa was alive? Anyhow, you're talking about some, it's like they say, if you draw Rubeus, just end the reading. Cata Draconis is another one, end the reading, don't even do it. Carcer, which is imprisonment, just end the reading. It's like, no, you guys are lightweights. I think that when you see Rubeus, when you're talking about passion and integrity as well, when it's ill-dignified, you get those other things. But I think that you can make that there's energy with that sort of passion, okay? When it's ill-dignified, there's energy there. There's energy when it's dignified. And so if you take that passion and you put it to your own advantage and you allow spirit to inform that process, but let's hang on to this. This could be something lurking. This could be something behind the scenes that wants to prevent you from your success and breaking through whatever, barriers you've been experiencing. You've achieved this alignment, but let's hang on. I'm going to write this one down so that we don't forget about it. And let's see if maybe we'll see going forward tomorrow or the next day, there might be something indicative of something trying to get in the middle of your process. So, because it's kind of an anomaly. If we don't think of it in terms of energy only, and we think in terms of what this guy has said this is, I don't necessarily do that. I think in terms of what is this? Is it a push energy? Is it a pull energy? Or is it a stabilizing energy? So that's kind of how I look at this. Rubeus is not a stabilizing energy, but here we may not want it to be. So in any event, although you're going to need a little bit of it. Well, cool. All right. Well, listen, thanks so much for stopping by. Again, if it's your first time, welcome. I appreciate you coming. And if you've come back, thank you so much. Really, I totally appreciate it. Check out the blog. Again, I'm going to do that Hermetic Tarot reading. I'm going to do that today and finish that today. I've got some things I've got to go check on those beds. I've got to water them in. I'm not going to plant yet till we're going to add like a plastic cover to it. I'm going to put some tender stuff there, and I need to get it in soon. And I think we're going to have maybe some colder temperatures and it's not going to like that. So I want to be able to cover it. But they're climbers. This is going to be my gourds. They're already starting to climb in the little pots that I grew them in. So anyhow, I don't know. I'm going to be out doing that. And so, but I will get that one done today, maybe this evening. So check for that so you can get an idea of what those cards look like. And I'm going to start using it, I think, for a while on the blog. Just work with it for a little, do a few readings with it so people get an idea of what this deck really is all about. And then I'm going to turn to the Paulina Tarot because it's beautiful. Anyhow, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.